Hello and welcome to the NextPlay Spoilercast, a series where we talk about your favorite video games and films in full spoiler territory. Today, we are talking about the sixth episode of HBO's The Last of Us Season 2, titled The Price, and the final episode of Season 2, Convergence. I'm your host, Brad, and joining me today is Jamie.
G'day.
And Berto.
Hello.
We have a lot to cover and discuss in this Spoilercast episode, so we're going to get straight into it, starting with episode 6, The Price. The episode starts off in 1983. A young Joel comforts Tommy, who is worried about his father beating him for what he has done. Daddy Miller arrives home that night, and Joel tries to take the blame for what Tommy has done, though his father already knows the truth, that Tommy was getting ripped off buying drugs, with Joel beating up the kid after he finds out. After asking Daddy Miller why he beats them, Javier says that his father used to do the same, but worse, and that he is trying to be a better father, and that he hopes Joel does a little better than him when he is a father. Bit of new content there. Jamie, what did you think of this new lore drop?
Firstly, great casting to bring Tony Dalton in. He's brilliant in whatever he's in. So I thought he did a tremendous job. He actually maybe wants to spend more time in this era just to see more of him. I thought it was a nice little addition because we've never seen Joel at this age or what sort of shaped him as a character. So I liked this inclusion. It also sort of reiterates that sort of brotherly love that he has for Tommy, even though he's not willing to really come out and say it in that way. He shows it by doing things like this. So yeah, I enjoyed this additional scene.
What about you, Berto?
Yeah, it's very. I felt it like almost poetic. Obviously, it's a little bit obvious what it's trying to teach you here, especially because if you've played the game about breaking generational trauma, basically. So yeah, it could not get any more obvious in my opinion. But I liked it. It was nice.
And obviously we get a call back to this scene at the end of the episode, which is, again, a really nice touch. So in 2024, 2 months after Joel and Ellie return to Jackson from the Firefly incident, Joel sets out to build a guitar for Ellie for her 15th birthday. Tommy abruptly brings Ellie home and explains that she burned herself on a stovetop. High on painkillers, Ellie says to Joel that she's sorry and that she wanted to wear short sleeves again, implying that she did it to hide the old infected scratch arm on her arm. Good. I'm not sure if we ever got that in the game. I don't think we did.
No.
Kind of. This episode does feel like it just not ties up loose ends, but it like explains a lot in
Fills in the
between
gaps.
part 1 and part 2. Yeah. Ellie's 15th birthday has finally come around, and Joel is frustrated that Seth spelled her name wrong on a cake he ordered, but Ellie doesn't care because she gets a rare solo performance from Joel with the guitar he has newly given her. And yeah, a nice, cute performance from Pedro Pascal there. And after that, Joel tells Ellie that he understands why she burned her arm. Probably to give her... I don't think Ellie would have cared if Joel thought differently about her burning her own arm, but I guess it's that like comfort that Joel likes to give Ellie in situations like that. A very fatherly take. 1 year later, on Ellie's 16th birthday, Joel takes Ellie to a museum, bringing with it some iconic scenes straight from the video game. Ellie climbs the dinosaur in front of the museum, and of course, they take a journey through the space exhibition of the museum. Ellie and Joel go into the space shuttle with Ellie wearing a space helmet of her choice. Joel gives her a tape, which is emulating a spaceship takeoff, allowing Ellie to really immerse herself into the experience. How did you guys feel they handled this scene? Because I know in the game, this was one of my favorite parts to play. Jamie?
It's almost shot. Well, I think basically is shot for shot. And I think I discussed when we spoke about episode 5, I said Druckmann was coming back to direct this one. You sort of understand why. I think he really loved this scene as well. So you can tell he made that attention to detail to make it. Once again, the set design is just off the charts in terms of this season. Like, to have the basically whole space, the ships just sitting there and everything, I thought it was all great. It literally just looked like they ripped it straight from the game. So one of my favorite scenes from the game as well. I think it was completely true to it. Of course, you know, there's this few little scenes here and there from the actual exploration of the museum that we didn't get. Like, I always love when they go and put the hat on the dinosaur skeleton and everything like that, when they just mess around. But, of course, you can't linger there too long. But in terms of this actual scene, I thought it was completely perfect to the game. And, yeah, it was nice to see it in live action so true to the original source.
How about you, Berto?
Yeah, it's one of my top moments of the game. There were a few standouts that I'll always remember. And in Ellie's side, this is one of my favorite ones, if not my favorite one. I think it would, the set design it's so good, man. Like, it looks really ripped out from the video game. And the sound design too.
Yeah.
I do remember that from the video game was awesome.
I remember in the game, like, this part of the game really brought comfort because it was like, I think it was one of the first times you actually spent with Joel since his death in the game. And like, just going back to a younger Ellie, it was very reminiscent of part 1, the game. So yeah, there's just like a really strong comfort you get from scenes like this. Heading back home, Ellie stops in her footsteps and looks at a group of fireflies, the bugs, not the group that Joel slaughtered, showing that she is still contemplating whether what Joel told her about the fireflies was true or not. Jamie.
So I'd just like to touch on this. So I think in the game, it's done a lot better. So in the game, Ellie's exploring like the secondary place of the museum. I think it was more animal focused. And she stumbles upon the firefly symbol on the wall with liars written across it. And I think in the game, it does a lot better job of hammering home that she's contemplating that. I understand the subtleties here, but again, as of the other episode when she looked at the hospital and it just quickly cut away, I was watching this during the day, so I didn't even notice the fireflies. I'm like, is there something on that tree?
I had to rewind.
So I understand doing like subtle foreshadowing of things, but I don't think this shot sort of hammered it home as well as the game did, I think, in terms of where her mind's at and her still questioning it. It's tried to be different, but yeah, I think it was done better in the game, personally.
Yeah. So 1 year later, on Ellie's 17th birthday, Joel surprises Ellie with a cake. But the surprises don't end there, as he catches Ellie with a girl in her bedroom, getting a tattoo over her scar, and smoking drugs. Furious, Joel says she's not being herself and that they'll discuss it later. Later that night, Joel hears Ellie making noise in her room and finds her attempting to move into the garage. And after coming to some understanding about what happened earlier that day, Joel says she can move into the garage once he fixes up heating and electricity down there. Joel says he likes Ellie's tattoo and that it reminds him of the guitar he made her a few years before. Joel also asks Ellie about her fascination with moths and kind of gets nowhere with that. He seems to think that it means change, which we learn in the next scene that that's definitely not what it means. But yeah. Any thoughts on this scene in particular? I mean, it was nice seeing like when Ellie got her tattoo, I guess.
It's as you said, it's just filling in sort of the things that we didn't
timeline.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of just like a teenager falling out with her dad. I liked when she was basically like, "It's not your house either. You don't own this place. We just got given this place." Because he was like, "Not under my roof." It's like, well, it's not your roof.
That is,
but yeah.
such a teenage thing to say.
Exactly. So in about 15 or so years, I have this to look forward to. But
Yes, yes, you do. Joel meets Gail at the diner and asks about the symbolism of moths, and she says death. She asks why Joel wants to know, and Joel says nothing and storms out of the diner. So yeah, I think that might have upset him that she's seemingly obsessed with death in a way. You do see, I don't know if it was at this point or a bit further in the episode, you do see some drawings of moths that Ellie has done, and I think there's a scribe on there that's like something about life's purpose or something. I think, yeah, you can definitely see as she's getting older, she's more conscious of maybe what happened with the fireflies isn't all it seemed. Like, I feel like that was always going to happen as she grew up and started like questioning it, because like as a kid, even though it feels like she didn't really believe him at the end of season 1, but you can definitely tell she's the puzzle pieces aren't really connecting there for her. It is 2 years later, early on Ellie's 19th birthday, so this is in the current year that season 2 takes place. We see Ellie practicing a speech to Joel about the Firefly situation, including questions she wants to ask Joel that don't really make sense about the whole situation. Joel interrupts the rehearsal and tells Ellie she's going on her first patrol with him. Excited, Ellie grabs her things and the two set off. On patrol, Joel tells Ellie that he wants to spend more time together before being interrupted by radio that says Eugene and his patrol are pinned by infected and need help. And if you don't remember, Eugene is Gail's husband.
Yep.
The pair find Eugene, who has been infected. And Eugene pleads to the pair and asks them to take him to Jackson to say goodbye to Gail. Ellie says Eugene has time before he turns into infected by making him hold his arm out and count to 10. Ellie seems satisfied to that, and like I feel like she knows that type of thing. Like you can see that when she held her arm out to Dina the episode before. So yeah, she pleads to Joel that they should take him back to say goodbye to Gail. Joel says to Ellie to go get their horses and that he promises they'll take Eugene back to Jackson. While Ellie is absent, Joel takes Eugene to a secluded area by a lake where he shoots and kills Eugene, breaking Ellie's promise. Ellie returns with the horses to find Eugene dead, Joel saying, "I'm sorry," and the two drag Eugene's body back to Jackson, where Ellie is seen crying on horseback, now knowing that that isn't the first time Joel has lied to her. So before we get back to Jackson, how did you guys feel about this scene overall, Birdo?
I liked the whole Eugene part of it because I think we were all discussing
We
if
were
we
all
would ever see
hoping
what happened to Eugene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very dramatic, very beautifully shot.
Yeah.
I do love all that, but again, I'm the least freshest of the game. This never existed in the game.
No.
Um,
Gale didn't exist as far as I know. Eugene
I
did
mean,
in some capacity.
the more we kind of like, the more you're recanting how the episode went, the more I'm starting to think, and my mind's still thinking, obviously. But like the purpose of this episode, the more that I realize it is, it's about saying very little to get to a certain point that could have been said a long time ago, and like the imagery of breaking generation trauma, or in this circumstance, it's like if you can lie so simply about something, then you could lie about something so big so simply as well. So like I don't know. The more I'm thinking about the things that led up to this scene, obviously you're seeing someone that loves has confused his love of his daughter for his love of Ellie to replace his love of his daughter, and they've explained that quite well. And I think the scene's like the end of that partnership almost, like the realization hits in a way.
Yeah, you see like Ellie's face like in the shot when she's coming back with the horses and sees Eugene. Like you can see the horror or the terror on her face as well. Like that Joel would lie to her and hurt her like that. Yeah. Jamie, what did you think?
So firstly, this is a callback all the way to the first time we're in a sort of, what would you say, Fedra outpost. I remember there was like a sign up telling people like if they'd be bitten in certain areas of the body, how long it takes until the infection takes over. And I think from what I looked up the other week, which is still a little bit fresh in my memory, it was about 8 to 10 if you're bitten in area he was, in the arm, I believe. So when you think about it that way, it's only just happened. There was plenty of time to bring him back. Logically, I understand it was to get Ellie to the point where she's like, I don't believe him at all. And that the sort of reap that distrust between the two. But logically, I didn't really believe that Joel would do this randomly. I don't know. It just felt a little off to me. I think the performance from the Eugene actor, I don't know his name, sorry, but that was
Great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Like the scene itself was great, but logically, it felt like it was trying to get Joel and Ellie to a place which was created by the scene in the game where they visit the hospital, which I do understand why that wasn't in the game, because it's a stretch that they both go to the hospital almost at the same time to come to it doesn't there's a lot to just sort of take it once again, just a coincidence sort of thing. So I can understand why that wasn't put in the TV show, but I don't know how much I felt like it got to the place that we needed in a way that made sense, at least for me with this. I know we're going to touch the Gale scene in a second as well. I do want to touch on just how they say it in that scene where they, his lie is sort of revealed and everything. When she says to Joel, "You swore to me," like that's not the wording she used when it came to Eugene. When she used "swear to me" was that final scene from season 1. So when she's saying "you
yeah.
swore to me," I took it as if she was saying, I finally clicked now and I don't believe you whatsoever. I think that's why she was so distraught over it and said, "You swore to me," and storms off. Because I think it's getting us to the same point that hospital scene did in the game, but without it. A lot more subtle, but it's the exact same wording she
That
gave in that final episode.
I got the same thing because, like, if she said "you promised me," you would think she's like implying it's about the Eugene thing. But the fact
Exactly.
she purposely said "you swore to me," it did reference the initial big lie about the fireflies. I I can see like Joel, like why Joel would have decided to kill Eugene, because like realistically, Eugene would have had to be on horseback with one of them, and that's like very risky. Like to have someone infected behind you on a horse, because unless you're Ellie, who's immune. But
I
still,
think they did say they'd tie him up, though. I think there was plenty of time. It
mm,
just, like I said, in terms of, this is one of those logic jumps where you just have to
yeah,
follow what the plot does.
yeah,
But yeah, I didn't believe that the reasoning made sense, especially on her birthday as well. After she's like begged him, don't do it. I don't know. Seems a bit strange. But we'll take it whatever.
yeah. But then you look at the other hand, and you're like, if Ellie was the one infected, Joel would want someone to bring her back to say goodbye to. So like it's
It emphasizes his selfish nature a bit.
yeah, he is definitely selfish. Um, so yeah, back in Jackson, Joel explains to Gale what happened to Eugene, but tells a story of events that never happened, including how Eugene shot himself. Ellie pipes up and says Joel's lying, which prompts Gale to slap Joel. So we do kind of see, I guess, where the hatred that Gale does have for Joel stems from. Like, I feel like she wouldn't
It's
have hated.
justified.
Well, she wouldn't have hated Joel as much if he just said the truth to begin with, too. So, like, at the start of the season, I did think it was weird. Like, what the hell happened? Like, it sounded like Joel had to shoot Eugene at the start of the season when we first heard about it. And we were all kind of guessing, like, why does Gale still, like, hate him, like, that much? If it was, like, an essential kill. And guess now we got our answer, didn't we?
The fact
Yeah.
he could just on a whim just lie so easily.
Mm,
And then when he was like accepting the hug and everything, I was like, man,
yeah.
it does sort
Yeah.
of like reveal the curtain that this like Joel, yeah, in this world, no one's really good, but like he has some real darkness behind him.
I'm
But that's
almost
why
surprised.
I didn't like this scene, in my opinion. I didn't like
No.
it. Because I think, again, it goes back to the whole, you're making it pretty obvious here, moments that this episode in particular has. Like, you're making it pretty obvious you want us to look at him and think, oh, he actually is a bad person. But like, you do what you can to survive. That's at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, in this case, I don't know. I think I preferred the way the game presented the betrayal rather than doubling up on the fact that, hey, you've betrayed two people this time because that's who you are. Like, I don't like that.
I'm almost surprised that he did lie to Gale in front of Ellie too. Considering Ellie did he did promise Ellie that they were going to take him back to Jackson, but I guess maybe he didn't realize the impact that one little lie had on Ellie, and opened just that giant can of worms.
When I was watching with my missus, she was like, man, I feel bad for Tommy in this situation. He's like, now I'm gonna come for my brother. He's like, this guy's being stupid.
Right, so it is New Year's Eve once more, and we see Joel's perspective of the altercation between Seth and Ellie and Dina. But most importantly, we see Ellie once more walk past Joel on her way home after the New Year's Eve celebrations, but this time we see her join Joel on the porch. In a heart-wrenching scene, Ellie tells Joel that the face he had when he lied to her about keeping Eugene alive was the same one that he had when he lied about the fireflies. Ellie interrogates Joel and learns the truth about what happened in a tearjerker of a scene. Joel says he'll pay the price and that he would do it all again because he loves Ellie in a way that she can't understand. And relays the same message his father said to him at the beginning of the episode, saying if she ever has children, that he hopes she does a little better than him. And Ellie says she doesn't know if she can forgive him, but she'd like to try. Now, I cried during this scene, and I was watching it just before we're recording this, and I started crying again. Every time I watch this scene, it just breaks me. Like, I feel like I've watched it like 10 times, and I still tear up every time. It's fantastic performances from Pedro and Bella. Like I this might be my favorite scene of the whole show, like ever. I think it's just so wonderfully acted and so raw and emotional, and the fact that I don't believe Joel ever said to Ellie that he loved her, like in the game, like that we saw anyway. And yeah, beautiful. What did you think, Jamie? Did you cry?
No, I didn't cry. The game
Oh,
scene of this, the game scene of this gets me to tears each time. I will say that. The 2 times I've played it. So again, it almost sort of fuses the hospital scene where they have that confrontation and the final scene all together into this one scene. I do like this in terms of the acting throughout, like it as a standalone. And if I didn't have that pre-assumed knowledge and experiences with the game, I think I'd love it completely. I think I just have small reservations. Just in the game, it felt natural that she had sort of got to this point where she was at least willing to forgive him a little bit. But to freshly hear and get that confirmation from him that what she considered to be the truth, that he had lied, I don't know, like the time in the game, there's a big extended period of time that she knows he did it. And she gets to the point where she's willing to forgive. Whereas here, it's like confirmed. And then within a minute later, she's like, I'm willing to try and forgive you. And I know, as I said before, she probably had an idea that it was, especially with the comment she made during that interaction with Gail. But I don't know. I don't know how much it works in comparison to the game, because it feels more natural in the game that extended time between confirming and forgiving is sort of
is
earned.
it because
Does that make sense?
is it because we got to this point quicker that it seems not as impactful? But like, I feel like maybe they just didn't want Pedro on the season 3 and 4 payroll, because he's definitely getting paid way more than the rest of the cast. Do you think they just wanted to wrap Joel's storyline up here?
As I said, like, I understand why they decided to not do the scene where they go back to the hospital. Like, that was a harrowing trek in the first game, and then Ellie just rocks up there like it's nothing, and Joel just right behind her on the tail. Like, I can understand that's a lot to just sort of shrug and just go, oh, that's just the plot. But I think it's just, I didn't feel it was so natural for her to jump to the apology and the ability to try and move on whilst getting it confirmed mere 3 or 4 sentences earlier. That's all. So
Yeah.
again, if I hadn't seen the game, I probably would be fine with it. But it's just, once again, it's hard to not make those comparisons to
Yeah.
the original source material. So I just think the game did it better, but I do think the scene was strong overall, and the acting was really good.
Better. What you got?
Yeah. Yeah, the scene was good. It was great. Like, I had no issues with it. Like, and it harkens back to the beginning. Again, he tries to create a perfect circle of, breaking that circle, right? The cycle. It's always a circle. I remember the game when this happened, and I don't hate this one. And I understand what Jamie's trying to say, but time is like, unless this season was 10 episodes, you could not get to that point to the degree that maybe the game and maybe the hardcore game fanatics like Jamie, like YouTube, would want to get to that point. Like, we have to hurry up. Like, we don't have much time. So obviously there's made some concessions of storytelling to get to that point. But I get what you mean, like that natural, I'm willing to forgive straight away almost. Like, yeah, I mean, it's all time. That's all
Well,
it is. Like,
I guess she's not saying she will forgive him. She says she wants to. Like, she's not like,
It's word for word from the game.
yeah,
what she said. Yeah.
she's not like, oh yeah, that's all good, Dad. That's fine.
To be fair, I think personally it could have been simply fixed if his confession came after the Gale interaction. There could have been just a simple scene where it was him going after her, and they have that interaction there, and then there is the time jump to this scene. I think it still could have like worked, and you didn't have to combine it all into the one scene. Again, I'm no creative director. That's just how I think it would have worked better for me, at least. But I am a nitpicky bastard, and that's just what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. The lines that speak out to me were where Ellie says, like, you did it because you're selfish, and then Joel's voice like breaks and says, no, it's because I love you. Like, yeah. Chills. All right. Moving on to the end of the episode, we are in the present day and we see Ellie returning to the theater after killing Nora at the hospital. So that was episode 6. Overall, how did we feel about this flashback episode? Did you like how we kind of got, I think we got every year except 1 year, because it did jump to 2 years later onto her 19th birthday. I don't think we ever saw her 18th birthday. So how do we feel in that format where we just jumped each year and kind of got that missing timeline between part 1 and 2? Jamie?
I think sort of revolving it around her birthdays was a good way to showcase the passage of time without smashing us over the head with what month and day it is and everything.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of that, it was a smart idea. I thought it was a strong episode overall. Like, it probably is one of my favorites of the episode of the season. I think it just sort of reiterates to me what we sort of didn't get from this season in some episodes. Like, Joel's absence is felt. Like, Pedro is a fantastic actor. And I think some of those episodes where maybe some scenes didn't hit with me as much, it's like if Joel would have been there. And like in season 1, like you have these two characters that are butting heads all the time, you know, Ellie and Joel, and those interactions are what made so much of the season 1 so charming, and the game. So you do feel that absence. And I think overall, like I said, strong episode. I'm very curious how they do the end of next season, because this scene, we don't get this scene until right at the end of the game. Like, this is the fuel to sort of stop Ellie from go. I won't go into the spoilers of that, but it stops her from doing something really bad. And now that they haven't done it here, I'm unsure if they're just going to do a brief flashback, or maybe there's some additional lines that maybe we didn't see that will sort of bring her back from what she's about to do. But yeah, strong overall episode, I would say.
Better.
Yeah, I think it's my second favorite of the season. I mean, Jamie and I seem to have a lot of things in common when it comes to what we like about the season, and I think the part of Joel is definitely, or the heart of Joel is definitely missed quite considerably. I just think, again, like, I get, like, it's really interesting how, you know, we've been doing this for 6 episodes now, trying to predict the next episode, and we got it right again. The whole episode was nothing but flashbacks, except for the very end. And, you know, I wish now, looking back, especially episode 1 and 2, if they had condensed some of the Jackson stuff to fit a little bit more in with Joel, I think it would have helped the momentum of the season a bit more. Because he's, for better or worse, you know, depending on which side of the fence you look at things in life, he is like one of the main motivators of people to love this franchise. So any episode or anything that has Joel in it is comforting, I would say. You know, I think that's the word you used. So yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, there's literally no avoiding that. Like, he was going to die. I see outlets like writing like editorials saying Joel's death killed The Last of Us. Well,
I don't think so.
what else were they gonna do? Keep him alive and change the whole story? Like, I don't get what. There was no solution to that. He was always going to die.
Just sort of piggybacking off Birdo's point, because I forgot to bring it up. Yeah, in terms of having a entirely basically flashback episode right before your season finale, it did feel like it sort of halted the pacing a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of just the structure of the season, because when you get to the next episodes, which we'll touch on in a second, it just didn't feel like it was like ramping up to something. It felt like, oh, let's pause for a week and then we'll come back. So I think that's where in the game, because they're sprinkled throughout, you get these Joel scenes. And whilst as a standalone episode, great. Loved it.
Yeah.
As I say, I agree with Birdo, probably my second favorite episode of the entire season. But when you look at it, the season as a whole, it just feels like a weird place to place it, if that makes sense.
Do you think, like, if you were watching this, like, if you were binging it and, like, you didn't have to wait a week between episodes, would that momentum not have halted as much as it felt like, do you think? Because I know, like, society these days hate waiting for weekly drops of episodes. They just want it all at once these days. And I feel like people aren't as patient anymore. And it just, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. What do you think, like, in terms of that?
It's a good question. I don't exactly know. If I get a chance to ever binge the season from start to finish, I will let you know. But just in terms of pacing of, if you want people to binge it and you feel like that's the best way for the season to be presented, then release it all in one. You didn't have to do the weekly releases. But, as a hardcore fan, I'm going to watch it weekly. So that's the pacing they want. It felt like it just halted everything while we get all the flashback scenes out. That's all.
It did.
Still liked it.
I think it would have. I think if it was released as a whole, the momentum was already losing its pacing 2 episodes ago when I mentioned that I felt it wasn't a sense of urgency on her behalf, Ellie, to want the revenge more. You know what I mean? Like, the problem isn't the episode. The episode's great. It has your favorite scenes. Like, it has one of my favorite scenes, all of us, right? It's just, I don't think they have communicated it properly. The sense of desire to want to hurt someone that lost this person who was their father figure. Like, you're presenting to us the love between them, or the hatred, or whatever you want to call it, right? The betrayal part of it. But, like, they've lost that before this point, in my opinion.
No, I disagree. I think that comes and goes, but I think it disappears at the wrong time. Like, I can see it there sometimes, but it's just not there constantly like it was in the game. Like, you just saw the ferocity on Ellie's face, like, for the entire game. And I think we talked about this in the last episode. Like, there's, like, more, like, lighter moments that kind of, like, make it a bit jarring on this quest for revenge. Again, I said I did like those lighter moments, but yeah, I can see both sides to that. Any final thoughts on episode 6 before we move on?
I wonder what's going to happen in the finale.
I know. Let's talk about it. All right, kicking off the season finale of season 2, Convergence. We see Jessie trying to assist Dina in the wound that she got from the scars. He offers her whiskey to help with the pain and she declines, which felt very weird for him. Ellie returns to the theater and runs straight to Dina to check up on her. In less pain, Dina cleans Ellie's back, which is full of wounds, before Ellie telling Dina that Nora is dead and that the only clue to Abby's whereabouts is a whale and a wheel. At the end of that scene, Ellie tells Dina what Joel did in regards to the Fireflies, and she does not take it very well and says that they need to pack up and go home. So the group agrees to do that. how did we feel about Dina's reaction to what Joel did? Beto?
Strange,
Mm.
if I'm being honest. Strange, considering at the beginning of the season they were so close, and I guess that's probably why it's strange, because she saw a different side compared to the reality of it. So it's all about painting perspectives, right? So
I swear Dina has said in this season that she doesn't care what Joel did, or that he didn't deserve it, or something like that.
that sounds very familiar, and you're probably right, but I forget.
I mean, it is a huge, like, world-changing thing that Joel did. So, like, it's hard. And, like, at the end of the day, maybe she was a little empathetic to Abby, with, like, Joel shot dead her father. And, well, we kind of know what happened to Dina's mother and sister, so I don't know if that's a little related to Dina's reaction, but yeah, we don't really know, do we? Jamie, what did
No.
you make of it?
Yeah, I agree with Bodo. It is a strange reaction to it. This scene in general, this was again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. I feel like it was just done better in the game. I didn't really understand the deviation of Ellie not just saying she's at the aquarium. I didn't understand the whole whale on the wheel change. Like, she's like, I made her speak in the game. I rewatched the scene over the week. And it's just so much, it's better presented in the game, like where Ellie's state of mind is at following what she did. Like,
What happened in the game again, real quick?
so basically it's very similar. She just they have a map in the game, so she's able to go, she's at the aquarium, I made her talk. And then, like, you just see her breaking down a lot more. It's obviously a different interpretation. Bella's gone more for the sort of in shock reaction in comparison to the game, where you sort of see her break while she's with Dina. I think I just preferred that aspect of the game. And yeah, I don't really understand the change of not just saying, oh yeah, I made her talk, she's at the aquarium. I don't know why they did the whale on the wheel. And, like, to be honest, I couldn't even hear what she said during that scene. It went extremely quiet for me. So I was like, what did she say to the missus? And she's like, I think she said wheel. And then I understood it. But I just don't understand that deviation at all. And yeah, I thought Dina's reaction to it was strange. Because yeah, I do recall that scene you were talking about, Brad. I think it's when they leave the theater, maybe day 2, I think, when they're heading off to where the stalker scene is. And we get
you
the
guys got
backstory
good
of Dina.
memories.
When it comes to useless shit, I can remember. But when it's important things, I can't remember anything. But yeah, I remember that's when Dina was giving her backstory, I think. Yeah, it's just strange. She almost seemed more pissed off with Ellie from keeping it from her. Which, again, like, it wasn't really relevant to Dina anyways. And, like, everyone's done shit stuff. Like, pretty sure Dina confessed, didn't she kill someone as well? Or the one who murdered her sister? I can't remember.
Not
but either
the cure
way,
to humanity, though.
let's not jump into how the cure, I don't think, makes any sense in this.
No,
but
it
anyways,
doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah, so better in the game, I think.
I don't want to jump ahead, but, like, I think, like, obviously I don't think Ellie's content with packing up and going home just because Dina says, but, like, the group, as a group, they do decide that they're just gonna grab Tommy and go home. But when she realizes that she's seen the wheel and the whale when they're looking at the top of that building, you get a sense that, like, the switch has flicked in her brain, and she's back on it. Like, she does not care anymore. She wants to go find Abby again. So I don't know. Like, they could have kept it the way it was in the game, but I don't know. There's a lot of these, like, little details that they just change, which I'm sure it did have some form of intent with the change. Like, I don't think they would have just changed it just for fun. It, there might
Yeah,
be something we're overlooking, or just I don't
there's
know.
some changes that work better. Like it's give or take. Some work better in the game, some work better in the TV show. Just in this instance, I think the game just handled it a bit better, in my opinion.
Yeah. So it is Seattle day 3, and the group pack up and start heading back to Jackson, but they do need to find Tommy first. Wandering Seattle, Ellie and Jesse discuss Dina and why she declined an alcoholic drink last night. Jesse wonders if Dina is pregnant, and Ellie lets it slip. The two run into a group of WLF chasing a young Scar. Ellie wants to save him, and Jesse wants to stay quiet. After they leave, Jesse says he can't afford to die and that this isn't their war to fight. Any thoughts on this scene?
Jesse's right. Like
It
didn't make sense
Jesse is
at
right.
all.
It didn't. Like
yeah.
There were like 5
It's like 8
soldiers
people with
there.
automatic machine guns. It didn't make sense at all. So yeah, I totally agree with Jesse in what he decided to do there. I loved the interaction between Jesse and Ellie. Kind of made me wish there was more Jesse throughout the season as well. Just so that you could tell there's this where he kept putting her in her place of like, we've all come here and wasted our time because you ran off. I thought he was great in this episode.
He's definitely like the older brother to Ellie. There's that older brother dynamic. Which their
relationship in this episode was great.
It's a bit more grounding, his perspective, like puts her in check, like you guys said.
He's all for the community, guys.
About it. Loves it.
Back at the wolf camp, Isaac is preparing for the attack on the Scars Island when Sergeant Park asks about the importance of Abby and her group, who have all gone missing. Any additions to this scene?
So, watching it with the missus, it's interesting, to sort of hear an opinion of someone who hasn't played the entire game. She had seen bits and pieces from when I played it, and she didn't even know the scenes that weren't in it. She was like, I remember when you played this, that didn't happen. Here, she was like, what is happening? Like, why is Abby important? Why are they, what attack are they doing? Like, why is they all going to die? What is going on? It just sort of this brief scene, I don't think as someone who hadn't played the game, really, I know it's all going to be divulged in the next season, but I think as a context of someone that hasn't played the game, she was confused over what was actually happening here. Like, I don't feel like it portrayed the big war and the war to end all wars between the Seraphites and WLF that well to someone who didn't know from the game, I think.
Well, to be honest, at first I was confused with this scene. I was like, wait, what is happening? And then it clicked when we got to the Scars Island scene that, that's what that was. Like, I almost thought this scene was unnecessary in Ellie's point of view. Like,
yeah. Agreed, totally.
Why,
it should have been the next season. Yeah, it makes no sense.
It was more about
out of context.
Yeah, it was more to hype up Abby. Really,
strange choice.
I guess it kind of like places Abby and her group like kind of off grid or laying low to some degree. I can't remember. So the way he says like Abby and a group have gone missing, like they didn't leave Wolf, did they? Why did they camp at the aquarium?
So in the game, I believe from memory, Owen had sort of decided not to kill a Seraphite, and I think the dude he was with was like, no, we're going to do it. They scuffled, gun went off. He basically killed one of his WLF friends. Okay. And then basically he ran off. So I think that's why Abby went and tried to find Owen, because Isaac was like, he's AWOL.
I remember.
Yeah, so, and obviously, Mel's carrying the kid. I'm assuming that's why she decided to sort of skip along with him. But yeah, in the context where this show hasn't really, we discussed it of how funny it would be if they didn't touch on any of the Salt Lake crew or whatever they call them in the TV show, and they really haven't. But this scene felt so out of place, which we'll talk about another scene that felt completely out of place in my opinion later on. But yeah, this in context of Ellie's adventure and why she's heading there, I completely understand that if you had no experience with the game at all, you'd be like, sorry?
Yeah, like it's weird. Like, how would the general audience even know that Abby and her group aren't at the wolf base? Like, because that's where they live. Like, I don't know. It is a weird scene. Very weird. I don't know. Moving on. Jesse and Ellie stop in a bookstore after discussing how they both love Dina differently, and they hear on a radio that WLF is being targeted by a sniper who they assume is Tommy. The two head up to the top of a building to get a vantage point, and Ellie sees the wheel, a Ferris wheel, and a whale, a mural on the side of the aquarium. Ellie says she's going to the aquarium because Tommy would want her to. Jesse reveals to Ellie that he voted no on the vote for hunting down Abby, saying it was for the community. And Ellie says, fuck the community. My community was beaten to death right in front of me. Where Ellie heads to the aquarium alone. So I bloody knew Jesse voted no. I knew it. I get why. Like, I'm not upset with Jesse. I still love him as a character, but I couldn't see him voting yes on that. Just with his morals, it does just seem like he wants what's best for everyone, not particularly what he wants. So yeah, how did you guys feel about this scene, Birdo?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved the character. I understood his perspective. You know, at the end of the day, like, he voted no because it's for what's the community. She's like, oh yeah, but what about my community? And that's when I reckon you just say to, Ellie, then go. Like, no one's stopping you, really. You just can't. It's your thing. It's not our thing, if that makes sense. Because you can still have love for, her home, but still have her own objective in life, purpose, I guess, or trying to find that purpose. I thought the shot was awesome. I feel like it's exactly like it was in the game. I could be wrong. The backdrop and everything like that. Really, really good. I genuinely have enjoyed all of Jesse's interactions at this point. It's refreshing.
I'm also almost disappointed we didn't get to see like the flooded Seattle, but I feel like that might have cost a bit too much money. Lots
Probably.
of CGI involved there.
They'd have to flood a city, yeah, to do the practical effects.
Yeah. Jamie, what about you?
All right, so I'm finally doing a 180. I like this scene better of her heading towards the aquarium than the game scene. Not that the game scene is bad when she decides to go. This is very similar how they get there, but it's not this confrontation between them as much with the voting aspect and everything. And like this is the Ellie, like the savage revenge anger that I have been wanting over the episodes leading up to. Like in this scene, she hammers home a state of mind of where she's at. But again, as we've spoken about, like the inconsistencies in terms of the writing, I think they've given the character, it didn't feel like it had got here naturally. But here is what I was expecting from Ellie throughout most of the season. That's my community. Fuck the community. You know what I mean? I'm just going to go out for revenge. And like in the end, she's just ditching Tommy. Like she's like, oh, dude, this is what Tommy would want me to do. But Tommy could die by you choosing to do this. So I think this was a great scene, potentially might be my favorite scene of the episode, I think. But yeah, I loved it. No notes. I really enjoyed this particular scene.
Ellie takes a boat in the vicious storm engulfing Seattle and capsizes, washing up ashore on the Scars Island. She is found by the Scars, a little creepy little child that scared me at first. And they begin to their torture ritual with her, but are interrupted by the WLF's attack. Ellie gets back onto the boat and arrives at the aquarium within seconds. Amazing. She kept her backpack throughout the whole ocean. Like, props to that backpack.
Good work, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously this wasn't in the game. The only scene we get like this is what happens to another character. How do you feel about this, and why do you think they've included Ellie on the Scars Island, which never happened in the game?
I think Jamie wants to talk about it more
Yeah.
than me. He's itching.
yeah.
Look at him.
Yeah,
He's
I literally
ready. He's
saw,
ready to
I was
pounce.
like, Jamie's ready to go.
I was just waiting for you to give me the green light to
Because
go.
the last
I thought
scene was your favorite, but this is your favorite of the season, hey?
this is dumb. So out of all the scenes throughout the entire
Here we
season, this was the stupidest. So I watched the inside the episode, which they always release, and I believe they made mention that this was a scene that was originally in the game, but they decided to cut it. I understand why they cut it, because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, all right, contextually, not only is she heading to the aquarium and the island's behind them, how she gets to the island from that whole capsize is absolutely stupid in terms of the position,
strange,
where she's
yeah.
actually heading. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't do anything. As I said before, it reminded me of Cinema Sins, where they just poke fun of TV shows and movies, where it's just like, this show has time for this. Like, there's so many other scenes that you could have dedicated this 5-6 minute period to. Not to mention that we're almost going to get this almost identical scene, presumably in the next season. It just didn't add anything. And like, children suck. Like, that's about it. That's what I get out of that.
Yeah, well,
I just realized what you meant. I was like, what? Children? I'm like, oh, yeah, that kid. The little boy.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I felt like it didn't need to be here. I don't feel like it added anything. I understand you have a TV show now. You can bring back scenes that you didn't include in the game for whatever reason, but just felt like such a random side quest that we didn't get anything out of. And then she just goes back on her way anyways. Like, there's no reaction to it. She's just like, okay, well, I'll just go then because you're not disemboweling me. Like, it was so weird.
yeah.
I didn't like it, if you can tell.
It is weird that, like, did she swim to the island? She would have been closer to the aquarium. Like, I don't know. Anyway, she is back at the aquarium, and Ellie finds Owen and Mel and interrogates them about Abby's whereabouts. Owen tries to do something very smart and reaches for his gun, but Ellie's instincts are quicker, and she shoots him through the throat. Unfortunately, the bullet pierces Owen and goes straight through Mel's neck as well, where she begins to bleed out. Mel asks Ellie to cut her baby out as she's dying, but becomes delirious after a while, thinking that Ellie has already begun the procedure. Ellie can't do it and covers the pregnant belly back up in she's crying a lot. She's like, that probably traumatized her, I would say. I think the addition of Mel asking her to deliver her baby was a hard watch, but like not in a bad way. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? Because I'm pretty sure Mel just like instantly dies in the game. Like there's no interaction really between her and Ellie. But yeah, it's interesting. What did you guys think, Jamie?
Yeah, so in the game, she basically does the whole map thing as she did in the show, and then I think she ends up having a little scuffle with Owen, shoots him, he starts bleeding out. Mel comes at her with a knife, and instinctively she attacks back, and then instant kill until I think it's Owen that like points to Mel, go look
Yes.
at her, and then she finds the pregnant belly.
Mm.
So it's different. I wouldn't say it was better or worse. I do think it was just different. It does sort of the accidental kill. I don't know. Sort of once again, it sort of makes her more sympathetic that she didn't mean to kill her.
I thought that
Whereas,
the show made her more remorseful over that than the game did.
yeah, I agree with that. The only thing that I thought was strange, like I know how she was saying to Mel, "Oh, I don't know how to make that cut," but instead she does nothing. Like you could have at least just cut in general and tried to get the baby out, and then if you failed,
What if you failed?
the
You'd be
baby
even
cut.
more traumatized and the baby would have
Yeah.
died.
But
That
she still
baby
killed it anyways.
that baby wasn't getting fed by anything.
Well, still,
The
I just
baby
thought
would have
it
died.
was strange.
I would have done the
Yeah,
same
the
thing.
missus and I looked at each other and were like, "How come she didn't at least even try? Like, if she felt guilty
Would
about
you
what had
try?
happened,
What's
yeah,
Ellie gonna
sure,
do with the
sure.
baby?
Sure, yeah.
She's gonna have a baby next
do?
season. What's the difference? She wants to be a dad. She can have another one.
That's funny.
God.
That's all. Yeah, different. I wouldn't say I hated it more or liked it more than the game. It was just a different interpretation. And yeah, it was sort of harrowing at the end if she was gonna cut it out or not.
Better thoughts.
I hated it. Yeah, I hated it. I think, like, I usually don't show much emotions at all. But when she's like, take the, baby out of me, I legit said, what out loud? Like, I usually don't say anything. I'm like, what? What? This isn't how it was in the game. Again, the thing that irks me the most is the fact that that jarring moment doesn't happen when it needs to happen. And I feel like, again, comparing it to the video game, when it happened, I was like, holy shit. Like, it legit made me feel. And that's the problem that I'm having. And I know we'll talk about the season as a whole, but like, I was like, it made me feel weird. It's like, what are you going to do once the baby comes out? Like, why are you getting the baby ready? Like, you can't, this isn't how it should have been in a way. But no, I was like, what a weird, strange thing to do to change that up. I feel like for the audience, if I were watching it without knowing the game had a bigger impact. It would have been more shocking, like Game of Thrones Red Wedding shocking. The end, like how you're like, oh, okay, this is not good. But now it's more like, what? This is weird. But
Do
that's just me.
you think these like alterations or like additional scenes are made to like shock the people that have already played the game? Like, do you think they're purposely changing some things? Like, I'm, for one, am glad that it's not just scene for scene. Otherwise, I would just like play the video game again. Do you think?
So I just touch on that quickly, just from the inside of the episode. That was Craig Mason's idea to add that with the cutting her out thing. They reference that in the inside look.
Okay.
He came up with the idea to make it more impactful and suggested it. I probably agree with Berto. Yeah, I don't think it hits as well because that shock of her finding it in the game is pretty powerful. And then you just sort of, all the audio goes and it's sort of her
it's
coming
the
to
way
terms
that
with what it is.
Yeah, that. Sorry, continue.
May? I thought Jamie had more to say, but
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Jamie.
It's strange. Like, obviously they would have come up with these and what worked and what didn't in the game. So adding these things, it as you said, the way how you reacted, going more impactful. It is impactful already in the game. So it is sort of interesting that they decided to add that element to it. But again, like it is weird when you consider what is going to happen if she does cut the baby out anyways. it just doesn't end up leaving you focusing on the trauma that Ellie has from what she just did. Instead, you're more focusing on, is she going to do it or not? And it's sort of like, at the state she's in, the focus should be on, shit, what have I done? But because as a viewer, you're watching it going, is she going to cut her open? You're more focused on that. And I think that is where the disconnect of this scene maybe sort of hits, I think.
I don't know. The whole time I was like, she's not going to do that.
Yeah. You remember, you guys have watched Saving Private Ryan?
No.
Okay, well then, delete this episode.
I'm gone.
Delete the whole episode, re-record
Yeah.
the whole thing.
No, what I was trying to get, I'm trying to think of what, I don't know what you guys have seen, but the reason I referenced that is because at the very beginning, it's based on World War II, storming Normandy Beach, D-Day, right? And there's like a moment, and it's only like probably 30 seconds to a minute, where they show trauma to a certain degree. They show trauma, and it's done very well in the Last of Us Part 2 game, where, trauma sometimes you're lost in that moment, that spotlight, nothing around you's happening. There's no music, there's no sound, like Jamie described it, like the scene originally, like sucked everything out. And I feel like, because obviously, I mean, we're Spoilercast, right? So the next season will be a lot about PTSD to a certain degree. I don't feel like it's setting it up again. Like, again, it's like a slow car crash rather than a bang.
Yeah. I'm indifferent on that. But yeah. So Tommy and Jesse arrive at the aquarium, and the three head back to the theater. And at the theater, Tommy comforts Ellie about what she's just done and says they need to make peace with Abby still being alive. He goes into the theater reception to start packing up everything for the journey home. Ellie thanks Jesse for coming back for her, and Ellie tells Jesse he's a good person and he says she'd do the same for him if the roles were reversed. The two then hear a commotion in the front room and run to see what's happening. Jesse is shot in the head upon entry by Abby, and Abby confronts Ellie about Mel, Nora, and Owen being killed, saying, "I let you live and you wasted it." We hear a gunshot with the screen going black. So this is not the last scene of the season, but pretty spot on with how it happened in the game. Almost shot for shot once again. I don't have too much to add on to about this, except rest in peace, Jesse. You were a real one. Yeah. Anyone got thoughts on this scene?
No, not particularly. I will touch on one thing I forgot to mention on the previous scene, that they also removed her killing the dog, which I guess
yes,
makes,
I wanted to mention that too. Yeah, thank God.
makes, as I said, it's just sort of once again making her, more sympathetic. I would guess she accidentally killed this. She didn't murder a dog. Anyways, fast forwarding to this scene. As you said, it's shot for shot from the game. I think the one thing with the game, and I can't remember it might have been you last night, I think, Berta, when I talked to you about how in the game you get to that scene of black and then we're in Abby now. You know what I mean? Straight away. And I think in the game, and now I realize what I said. Anyways, it makes more sense in the game because you're just straight into it. And, that's what's driving you. Like, what happened at the theater? You know what I mean? But, we don't know how long until the next season is. And that's why I was always sort of apprehensive of them doing the structure of Ellie first and then Abby. I thought they would always do sort of jumping perspectives. Yeah, concurrent. Yeah, I thought that would make more sense because, as we have spoken about previously, the timeline is a bit convoluted and hard to follow at times in part 2. Does go all over the place, and in a television show it's a bit strange for that format. So I don't know how much that's going to work, because I had already seen stories that there's been a massive fan drop in terms of viewership already. And I know the season 3 is already confirmed, so you know what of it doesn't matter. We're still going to get it.
Yeah.
But I just don't know how many people have that sort of interest to come back for another season. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like it translates to a TV show in this way very well. Whereas the game felt like a natural progression of now we're driving to see her point of view. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Or am I just
Yeah,
rambling?
I'm pretty sure a few episodes ago, I think really at the start of the season, I was like, I really hope, I don't know how the like the two timelines are going to be told the way it was in the game, because like how would that be told effectively in a TV show format? Obviously it's too early to tell. We'll wait till next season. I do want to point out that I don't think there's going to be a 2-year wait for season 3 like there was for season 1 and 2, because we did have writers' strikes. I think that was not last year, the year before. And I feel like with Pedro out of the cast now, Pedro's a really busy man. I feel like scheduling would have been an issue as well to like for the filming dates of season 2. So I don't think Bella or Caitlin or anyone has like a very busy schedule. Not to say that they're not in demand, but
They don't get work.
No. Well, yeah, they do. But I think, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a I don't even know how old Bella Ramsey is, but I feel like maybe they were waiting a little bit to make her appear a bit older, because you look at season 1 and she does look older. It might just be the makeup and stuff, but she does look older in season 2, in my opinion. So
She does.
Yeah, she does.
yeah, we're not gonna wait 2 years, I don't think. But yeah, what were we even talking about? Oh yeah, that scene.
I think. Yeah.
I feel like people will come back to season 3 just to, I mean, not that we're gonna get the payoff, like to see anyone's reaction of Jesse's death, because that probably won't be until the end of season 3 or towards the end of it anyway. But like it's annoying
It's
that
just
like
strange.
it's annoying that he died and we don't really get to mourn it either, because in particular the last 2 episodes we've seen a lot of his personality and his character like really shine, and I feel like that was deliberate because he was going to die. But yeah.
The game never gives you time to mourn either, though. It is very
No, it
instantaneous.
doesn't. Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's about it. So it's so strange. Once again, like, because so we're going to get the theater, and if we assume season 3 is going to follow what the game does, we won't actually get a resolution to this cliffhanger ending until what, maybe episode 4 of the next season, when we
How
see
many
it from Abby's point of
episodes
view.
the next season?
I don't know, but just a sort of guess would be each day ended up taking over one episode in this season. So my guess would be what, maybe at the end of episode 3, if not in episode 4, we will find out what happened at the theater. That's a big stretch to leave a cliffhanger for that long hanging.
I'm fine with that. Like, I would prefer that over like a full season of Abby's 3 days and then the end kind of goes into Abby versus Ellie. It yeah, I don't know. I just hope they don't stretch out Abby's days, but I also hope they don't like omit any important Abby scenes during her 3 days in Seattle as well. It's just weird. Like It's hard to imagine. As I said, the way they've told this in two different timelines for a TV show it's strange anyway. So I don't know. Beto, you didn't have anything to add about this scene in the theater before we move on to the final scene?
You mentioned, okay, without deviating, because obviously you guys have touched on a few things, but we can talk about it at the end as a wrap up. The shot for shots, like I think Brad, you might have mentioned, like you're glad things weren't shot for shot. I'm also glad things that weren't all fully shot for shot, but this one was done. I don't think there was any other way to
Oh no, I'm glad
to really interpret it. I think it was done very shockingly, more shockingly than the scene before, which is again, you know,
yeah.
it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on it just a little bit before we move on, but just the boldness of them to do the way that they've, you know, to cut to black and then go day one, like, geez, yeah. But look, I liked it. I liked the whole theater shot. It was fine.
The theater shot in the head. Yes. The final minutes of the season begin from Abby's perspective at the beginning of Seattle Day 1, opening in the massive wolf base in the stadium.
Yeah.
And it pans over Abby looking over the stadium before saying Seattle Day 1 on the screen. And then it cuts to black, and that is the end of season 2. Overall, how do we feel about this episode? Before we get onto the season as a whole, just let's quickly get out our thoughts on episode 7. I'm pretty sure we've basically said everything we've needed to say about it already, but overall, where does it land for you in the season? Jamie?
Probably one of the weaker episodes, I feel. It left me very mute on most of it. Like, it didn't feel like a season finale, you know what I mean? And it might just be to a lot of the criticism we had throughout the season of the build up and the moments just not landing as well as they probably should
It
in a
felt
season
rushed
finale.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, like, I don't know why we're spending 6 minutes on that little expedition that she did.
I have a theory.
When
which talk
you
about
could,
later.
yeah, we could put that elsewhere. I just felt like I watched it and I was like, oh, you know, sometimes you leave on a cliffhanger like that and you just so hyped to get the next episode. But like, if they came out and were just like, oh, we're cancelled season 3, I don't think I would lose a bit of sleep over, if that makes sense.
Would.
Like, I just nothing made me like psyched to come back and get anything like more. And the missus felt the same. Like, she was just like, oh, that was probably one of the worst episodes that she's seen out of both seasons. So I don't know. It left me feeling a bit just flat, I think.
It's hard to take your brain out of like already knowing what happens. Like, it's not a cliffhanger for us because we know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know what the consensus of people that haven't played the game, but I liked the way they ended the season. Like, I thought, like, oh yeah, end it right where we're gonna pick up from in the next season. I don't know. I liked it, although I do feel like it was rushed. Like, the way Ellie just teleported to the hospital in episode 5 to kill Nora, and then we got that same feeling when she kind of just teleported to the aquarium as well. Not that I want filler, but I feel like this season overall could have benefited from 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree with that.
just
Yeah, I agree.
not
Yeah, totally.
make it feel so rushed all the time. Because
How many does season 1 have? Was that 9 or 10 in the first one?
I will fact check. Berto, what did you think of this episode? Oh, I guess that season as a whole, seeing as we're starting to talk about that.
Well, talk about the episode, I guess. I think it was definitely one of the weaker episodes of this season. There were a few things that I liked, but I think they tried too hard to do too many new things that were different from the source material at the wrong time. Um, Obviously, my biggest thing that I took away from it was, Brad, you mentioned about like, we already know the end, right? Okay, so I tried to remove my biases, so to speak, from it all. And I still, I feel like I'm quite level headed sometimes. Um, I still felt quite frustrated. I mean, how bold of them to leave it on that. Like there's no resolution until next season. So as a viewer who hasn't played the game, let's say, you're gonna have to go with it again. And like Jamie had mentioned, like uh, you're gonna have to wait quite a long time for the payout because now we get more exposition on Abby. So I think from a trying to remove complete bias away from it, I think it's a very frustrating end to and I suppose as a person who loves The Last of Us, I found it frustrating in general. And the season itself, we can talk about it, I suppose. I think the season was frustrating as well. Um, there's so many things that I loved about part two, and yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start. I have no idea how to start about this season. Like, I don't hate it. I genuinely don't. Again, just like the video game, I have just certain issues about it, mostly to do with the agency around Ellie and her commitment to her um, purpose, so to speak. So I think that's what was kind of frustrating. And like I know Jamie, you mentioned like the viewership, and I put the viewership story on my Instagram because I find it fascinating that they've lost half. You can't not have Joel die. That's the way it's intended to be. It will never change. I don't think that was ever the problem. I think for me the problem was that agency, that desire, that like that nervousness that you got when you watch the episode, that like, oh, what are we up to now, what's going to happen now, and just those moments of perhaps lightheartedness, perhaps things deviated a little bit differently when they didn't need to be. Maybe that impacted the momentum. So as a whole, like the momentum of the season I felt was a little bit off, which is funny because at the beginning, when we were talking about the game, I mentioned that my biggest gripe with the game was the momentum. So it's like, you can't have it both ways. And I know I sound quite hypocritical, but I'm very aware of my own hypocrisy here. But I guess as a television show, it just didn't have that oomph that the game did so well, that anxiety, that drive. And I can't put my finger on it.
Well,
Regardless of like even the trolls and all that bullshit, like remove that, just completely remove it. I'm not even considering it. I just find it stupid on a humorous level, like toilet jokes. But like, yeah, I don't know. There was just something. There was a disconnect that I can't put my finger on it. Apart from what I'm trying to rant right now.
well, they've technically squashed 20 hours of gameplay and cutscenes. Well, not cutscenes, just half the game basically into what, 7 hours? If maybe less, a little less than 7 hours.
Mm.
So I guess it might not feel as intense because the pace of it does go so fast at times where the tension never gets to build. Like, really? Like, you're already moving on to the next thing. It, I liked, I enjoyed watching this. I love the game more. I will always prefer the game more over the TV show.
Yeah.
I definitely do think season one was better than season two, but I loved all the additions of lore and missing timelines that we got in this season. I liked how they explored Dina's character better, Tommy's character better. I love the addition of Gale. I obviously the performances of the cast have all been great too. Don't think I don't think there's a character in here that I didn't enjoy. I'm actually loving Caitlin Deaver's portrayal of Abby. I do wish we got more of that in season 2. Obviously know why we didn't, but it I'm actually very excited for season 3 because we get more of Abby's character, and I think her portrayal of Abby is a lot more exciting than Bella's portrayal of Ellie at the moment. I do love
Yeah,
Bella's
agreed.
portrayal of Ellie, but I'm just so excited to see where Caitlin takes this character, because that last scene, well, that second last scene in the theater, like as soon as Abby was on the screen looking pissed off, I was like, I missed this from episode 2. Like, I am really excited for it. And I I again, I don't know where the general public are, where their hype levels are for season 3, but I feel like outside of being like knowing what's going to happen, I'm excited to see Abby's reaction to all basically what Ellie did in this season. Like, I'm excited for it. And I remember when we took over as Abby in the game, I was excited to play from a different perspective of what we as players did. So I'm excited for that perspective change. Even if it is only for 3 episodes or however long it may be. I'm excited for Lev and his sister, like more scars, seraphites and all that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I was hyped for this season just to see how quick they would get to Joel's death, but I feel like I'm even more hyped for season 3 because I do feel like I enjoyed Abby's perspective in the game more than Ellie's. I thought there were a lot more interesting things, and the big I forgot what its name was in the basement. Yes, I really hope we get that in season 3. I think we will. I think they've alluded to
We
that
should.
coming. That's going to be very exciting if we do get that. But yeah, solid season. I do think maybe, I don't know, like maybe episode 3 and 4 might have been a bit forgettable. But I did definitely enjoy episode 6 with the flashbacks. That was one of my favorites. I think the season started off strong, and it may have lost its way in the middle part, but overall, I think it was solid. Again, I'm not one of those viewers that want to see shot for shot. Like, I see people saying, this isn't the video game. This isn't what the video game was like. I don't want it to be like that. That's boring if it is. Like, because if it was shot for shot, I feel like the game would look better anyway, because it's directed differently, even though, like, obviously it's directed almost by the same people, but it's, yeah, I don't know. I could keep rambling, but yeah, I'm hyped for season 3, and I hope we get it within the next year. Jamie, what about you? Season 2 thoughts?
So let me start. I am excited to see Abby's version in season 3. I just don't think the finale episode did a great way of getting you excited for that. Personally, I love Abby. I think she's great, even though people lose their minds over her. I think her portrayal and in terms of perspectives, like her character arc is great. I really enjoyed it. Her companion story with Lev is great. There's that so many iconic moments during that, as you mentioned, the Rat King boss. If they can do that well as well, that could be an awesome moment. And I think that sums up this season for me. Whilst it was episode 2 and 6 are probably my standouts, I think most episodes had some awesome moments in them. And if you go through, I still, off the top of my head, I keep thinking about the underground train scene that they had, where it was all shaking while they're in there trying to escape all the infected. And there was great scenes scattered throughout most episodes, I feel. I just feel like it was a little bit up and down throughout. And whilst I understand what you were talking about in terms of shot for shot, I think season 1 was so good because most of the scenes played out how you thought they were going to be. And most were probably shot for shot, but they just added to it. They added more set dressing. They just filled in the blanks, as we said, with some of these scenes that they're doing in season 2. But I think because they stuck so close to the source material, it was like, we knew what was happening, but they just sort of explored it deeper. And here it just feels like some of the changes hit and some of the changes feel like they're just sort of done. It's like, here's my homework, just make it look different for the teacher. And it's just like, sometimes I don't think they hit as well as me, who played it earlier this year, replayed the game. I don't think all of them all hit. I'm fine.
Do you think season 1 felt more easier to digest because there were less characters? I'm pretty sure it basically just followed Joel and Ellie the entirety of season 1, where like it's kind of like branched out a bit with extra characters in season 2, like jumping between like Isaac and Jackson and all that. Do you think maybe, I don't know, like it felt more... I get what you're saying when you said season 1 felt like different in that regard. And I'm just trying to put it in my head what the difference might have been. And my guess is that season 1 did follow just Joel and Ellie for most of it, apart from that one episode.
I think season 1 works better because the first game is easier and better to actually translate over to a TV show. I think it's a more straightforward plot between a father and his adopted daughter.
It's one
trying to cure the world, or will they? Yeah, for the most part. Like, we had the deviation for season 3, and we did have when they met Sam and everything. You know, we did get the perspective of the group that was in charge of that city. Like, we did see a little bit of backstory woven in, and we didn't learn about that in the game. So they did shift perspectives in certain situations within that first season. But I think in terms of translating a video game to television, 1 is like a home run. You know where you're heading. It makes sense. All the characters you meet along the way, you know, they send everyone in a certain direction. Like, you know, when Sam gets infected, and everyone's mourning the loss of him, and you see it with Bella and Pedro, and they just move on because they have to, you know what I mean? They're heading towards the hospital. This is just another bump on the road. And that's what the game portrayed. Part 2 is a lot more convoluted to put into a television show. So this is like hard mode to convert into a television show. So I think that's probably what it is personally. Like, we spitballed and we've spoke about it extensively, how they were going to do the story in a TV show format. And like I said, I think some of it's hit and some of it hasn't. And again, this is half a game. So like it's really hard to understand where it all gets to because we haven't had that second half of the game yet to give a little bit more context. Because like, even at one stage when Jesse and Ellie are walking in this final episode, you see the
I was about to bring that up
across the building. Yeah,
I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, them. So they're obviously going to do that. They're going to have them climbing across all the skyscrapers, and that's going to be cool. And I do think, you know, you're going to get. I remember calling it when there was explosions and Ellie and Dina looking off. I reckon that's going to be day 1. That's going to be Abby when she's fighting the Seraphites in that big fight when we first get in control of her. And then I think it's Ellie when she's in the basement of the hospital. She like turns the power and it goes all red. And I think that will probably be seen from Abby's perspective at that point. So
things may start to sort of piece together once the whole puzzle's there. And I might come out of season 3 going, as a cohesive 2-part season, this works. But yeah, just as a half so far, mixed bag, some great episodes, some awesome moments, but also some that I don't think landed for me.
I think you're right by that. I was saying I had a theory about it, right? And I think you hit it, Jamie. I think this doesn't make sense because it's not the full story. Obviously, it isn't the full story. I think this is a complementary piece to what is about to happen. You know, when you were mentioning how when Ellie gets taken away for that scene that was got cut from the game, right? I think you said you don't understand why it was there. I think you will understand next season why it's there. I think what I feel, and this is a theory, and I just thought of it now, and I could be completely wrong, is they're just going to mirror the exact same thing that happened in season 2, but with Abby. So you replace the Jackson, huge, village fight with what's going to happen on Scar Island. And like you said, every single shot will be reference to what Abby's doing. It's almost like, day 1, 2, 3 again, but the ending's going to be a little bit different, obviously. And maybe that's why they wanted a season 4, because they want to stretch out that last part of the game, which I guess we can talk about when it happens or if it ever happens. But I can't help but feel that they're very courageous and ballsy to do it this way. Like, we're all thinking, why would you do it? And I think it's because it's meant to be one big chunky unit rather than what do you call it? Rather than it all being condensed and then, the intricacies of having both Abby and Ellie in tandem. I think that's the point. And maybe, and I hope we're right. I hope that at the end, season 3 and 2 come in like, a little steelbook together because you have to watch them all as one. Like, maybe that's the way that it's meant to be consumed. But again, very ballsy because the audience didn't really tune in. They tuned in, but they didn't really tune in for the whole way. Like, and that's the gamble you take, right, to get the story that you want. So,
yeah. We could talk about this for forever. Like, we could.
Good. Easy. Very easy.
But yes, any closing thoughts before we end the episode?
No, I think we've done all the thoughts.
We definitely have done all the thoughts.
it was fun.
Yes.
It was fun to do this.
It was. So that does mark the end of our The Last of Us Season 2 Spoilercast. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a 5-star review on the audio streaming service of your choice so you can get the latest content sent straight to your feed. I've been your host, Brad, and you can find me at Brad_EXP on most socials. And joining me today has been Jamie.
Follow me on Instagram, JamieX66.
And Berto.
You can join me on Instagram as pause_gamer.
Thanks for tuning in for our Season 2 Spoilercast, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.